as to what they're willing for, what they want to provide to us remote versus what they want us to come out. And, we don't want Michelle and Sally, standing in front of a scanner for a couple days just to get us stuff. So we are taking the approach, if they can accept us, we'll come out and, safe guidelines, we'll review all the checks and all that type of bank recs and stuff like that on site so they don't have to scan everything over to us.
Yeah.
But we've actually been out already to do some planning, and then we're actually scheduled for field work next week.
Mm-hmm. So you're targeting for getting it done now with the extensions and everything, approximately? July?
Well, the Auditor State's office granted an extension on the finance report to August 2nd, I believe.
You said they granted an extension, I didn't know what to, okay.
Unfortunately, we're at the mercy of them. So we requested a 30-day extension on top of that because that's, our review process is and making sure we've audited. I mean, we're going to plan to have our audit ready and done minus the fact of any major or significant changes to the financial statement that pops up itself. So we're hoping to be ready in our normal June, July timeframe, and then it'll just be a waiting game on our end.
Because I know we had originally scheduled June something to receive the audit. I'm making an assumption that that's probably not a good date that we need to redo.
We're probably going to have to revisit that date.
Okay, so I think you just do that with Michelle, and we've got July, we've got an August, and we've got a September meeting already scheduled. So
okay, I mean, in a perfect world, I'd love to have it at the August meeting, but
the June one that I've got is definitely not a.
Based on when they're going to provide us the report, we wouldn't have good drafts for you at that point in time.
What do you see your biggest challenges during this COVID timeframe, dealing with the cities and states and the governmental entities?
The biggest challenges so far is working through changes they've made because of the pandemic is to off-site processing and procedures, and we're revamping our internal control processes and testing to account for being, electronically approval means versus what's a standard, your initial and dating on a piece of paper versus how it was approved electronically, that keeping those processes documented. Going from there, then, you've got dual control testing versus do we want to go straight up substantive test and focus more on that approach versus having to do all the dual controls. We've seen various entities that are, some of our concerns are, well, we allowed employees to bring work home to process it, and that might mean cash collection points. And so for that, we're doing extra additional procedures on work because to us, that's a heightened risk. So we have to do additional work on that to ensure that safeguards were properly maintained.
Yeah. Not that I'm questioning, I just wanted to get that out for the record so everybody understands.
Oh, not a problem at all. And then, the second biggest thing is all the grant changes and the rules, and it's going to boil down to a lot of documentation on the CRF funds because at some point in time, you spent this money in July with these guidelines, and you document that, and then sometime in December they come out with new guidelines. Well, they're giving leeway into that, saying, well, if you did it this way with this documentation, and because of the rules we had in place, we'll accept it, even though the procedures and guidelines might have changed at this point in time. So working through all those various items, but boiling it down to CRF is they've reduced some of the compliance requirements. So it's allowability, period of performance. Was it approved? Ensuring that the approvals took place after the closure date of Ohio through this particular date and time, and ensuring that bulk of it's going to be payroll, fire, for the police and fire, and then supplies, making sure those things are all done and documented and approved.
In other words, it's not going to be your usual everyday ordinary audit.
No, we're a couple years away from that. With all the CRF funds and the CRF round twos, and it'll be a few years before we get to the back of that normal, everyday audit. But
I don't know if you're aware that Dan's Chief Financial Officer for Firelines Regional Medical Center.
yeah,
And I'm his audit chair on that one too, so believe me, we've seen a whole lot of changes.
yeah, it's been an interesting change in the industry, and some good, some bad, but we're working through it and looking better to get back to the greener pastures.
Okay, I just wanted to be able to let you, instead of reading off of, a teleprompter, I'd let you, tell the story, and it's just gonna be different.
Yeah, it's going to look different. I mean, luckily Michelle and Sally are working with us, and they're more than willing to, let us come out and still be on site to get through those things, because it's hard to sit there and to do an audit remotely 100% is hard, because you don't get that the feel of the people, the introduction, being on site. How do you trying to do a walkthrough over a computer? It's hard. You don't get to really understand what's going on without being there in person, them showing you and understand their body language. And
Yeah, Mr. Brady, I wanted to get that on record in case any of our citizens are criticizing us for dragging our feet or something like that. Not that they would, but, this is the story, and, go ahead, Dick, you go.
I think this committee gets very little criticism, Alan. That's a testament to how good a job we do. I will weigh in for just a moment on the audit. I think this is a great advantage for us to have our same auditors for another year.
Yes.
I'd like to have them for at least the time that I have left. But I think that gives us a great advantage. So I welcome them, and I know how thorough they are. This is not exactly my bailiwick, so I can lose focus pretty easily on the stuff that I know you guys really enjoy talking about. But I do know how important it is, and I appreciate this committee's attention to detail on it, and I certainly appreciate our auditors.
Does anybody else in the committee have any questions of our auditors? If not, don't take this wrong. The real reason we're here is to find out where we're at financially.
yep, nope, understood.
So, Michelle, it's all yours.
Thank you. Thank you.
You can stay if you want to, or if you need to get out of here, I'll leave that to you. Or
We'll probably stick around because we're going to have a couple minutes when you guys are out of the meeting. Our normal couple questions at the end we'll have to reach out to the committee about, and so we'll stick around for a couple minutes. Thank you.
okay. Okay, at 12:02 last night, your email came through. I have no idea, but just sometimes,
Well, I'm sorry. It was late yesterday, but it wasn't at midnight. Ready for me to just dive in with the March financials?
Go for it.
Okay, so for the first quarter of the year, our general fund cash balance at the end of March ended at just over $4.8 million. So it's not where we were last year, but it's higher than the previous years before 2020. So we're in a pretty solid foundation, again, thanks to all the things that happened last year, the coronavirus relief funds and the BWC rebates that we received, and also the work that we did being proactive with employees is a main reason that our cash balance looks so good at the moment. As most people are aware, the income tax deadline has been extended. The federal deadline was extended first, and then the state of Ohio extended to May 17th, so we are also on the May 17th filing deadline. So it gives people an extra month to get filed. With that, again, timing's going to be a little bit different than it has historically for income tax receipts. Income tax receipts at the moment, we've collected 22% of what we've budgeted. So being that we're in the first quarter, we're doing well. We're, as far as I'm concerned, right on budget. A lot of our income tax receipts for withholding obviously come in seasonally, so that'll be more in the summer months when we see higher withholding for employees that are working during the summer. So 22%.
The federal government did not extend estimated tax payments until May. Did the cities go along and extend the estimated tax payments? I have not paid any attention to that.
I don't believe they did. I think they did not extend.
So, okay.
It's all through RITA. So RITA has a handle on all of that, but I can check their website and see what it says on that. So income tax receipts are at 22% of what we've budgeted for the year. Property tax, we received that in March. We received almost $860,000. That's about $19,000 higher than what we received in March of last year. So that's a good sign on the property taxes. Emissions and lodging tax, again, very seasonal. We have not seen much in receipts there. Last year at this time, this is when coronavirus was really just starting to happen. So last year we had people still staying in the hotels, and we'll see a decline there until we can get back to a more normal, I guess, season. And we have Cedar Point opening in a month. So we're very excited about that. And so we'll see the increase in lodging tax and emissions tax to follow that. Overall, our general fund revenues are 22% of what we've budgeted this year. Again, seasonally, we knew that emissions tax and lodging tax will come in during the summer months. So it's not alarming at this point that we're at 22% of what we budgeted in revenue in the general fund. The saving grace here is, again, our expenditures, what we've done with expenditures compared to our revenues. The general fund expenditures for the first half, or not the first half, but the first quarter of the year are $3.4 million.
And I think that's a credit to Mr. Whoopser and yourself that when Mr. Murray, we said, what's our contingent plan? I think you took that to heart and did a great job. Eric, I don't know if you can hear me or not, but yeah.
Absolutely. And again, $3.4 million
I can hear, just so you know.
this year compared to last year. Our expenditures were $4.6 million. So we are down $1.2 million in expenditures if we compare first quarter last year to first quarter this year. So that's really the saving grace. We do have currently, at the end of March, 219 full-time employees, and that's really a timing issue. We have some employees that were leaving employment in April. We have employees that we're bringing back, but also there's a lot of interviews going on. Our Connie in HR is actually doing interviews all day today and all day Monday. There's a lot of seasonal positions we're filling, a lot of maintenance positions like sewer maintenance positions that we are filling. Police and fire, we're constantly having testing and looking to get those back up to full force. So the employee count at the moment, at the end of March, was 219, but that won't be that low for very long. We've already gained some employees since March. As we touched on the American Rescue Plan funds, we were awarded the $18.5 million. Still no official guidance out on that.
And is that coming in one lump or is that coming in two lumps? I can't remember.
Two. The first disbursement is supposed to be on May 10th. So that's coming up very quickly. But again, if we get the funds, I'm hoping that they give us guidance so that we can make appropriate decisions and live within the guidance that they give us. But the second round will be next year. So we get half up front.
They say when next year or they just say next year?
They're saying approximately 1 year out. So I would assume at this point, May of next year.
I'm just thinking for budgeting purposes as we think this through, so.
Correct. And once we get guidance, we'll definitely love to have the discussions. We've already talked about last meeting, the Payroll Stabilization Fund and our general fund cash balance obviously are going to be concerns, and we'll make sure that we get those numbers and look at where we're going to be this year and what we need to use of the American Rescue Plan dollars to make good decisions for the financial future of the city. Last meeting we touched on the SAFER grant and the pumper grant for the fire department. We still don't have any news on those, but those are hopefully two grants that we feel that we were good candidates for, and hopefully we get some relief and get some additional grant funding on top of what we have in stimulus dollars.
So I think I saw Jim on the call, so Jim's waiting for that too, I'm sure.
Yes, I just asked him yesterday if he's heard anything, so.
Was that right, Jim? You're on the line?
Yes, yeah, we're still waiting. I think the grant for the engine should be coming toward the end of this month, I think April 30th. And then on the SAFER grant, I think that's going to be announced in May with one of the first round of announcements be coming out. So we're about 2 weeks for the pumper, about another month for the SAFER grant.
I guess I'll look at the auditors and ask them the question. And again, everything I read contradicts everything, so I'll ask you the question. Obviously, we know we've been awarded X number of dollars. We'll receive that. In the accrual basis financial statement, do we account for what we think we're going to get in future? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I don't know the answer either. I was hoping you did.
I don't believe until you get an actual, well, most of these are gonna be reimbursable grants, so until you have put a purchase order in place for that reimbursement, you wouldn't account for it.
Even though they're giving us half of the 18 million, knowing that they're going to give us the other half. I have,
Payments. Basically, since you're operating on a cash basis on a day-to-day.
but the CAFR, I'm sorry, the, whatever you call it, is on an accrual basis.
You would account for the, once you get the first portion in, you would account for that, and that would be reflected in the financial statements themselves, but you would not record the second allocation until they process that paperwork to actually,
Okay.
here's your award letter, here's the date we're gonna give it to you.
Okay. Sorry, Michelle, I just,
You're fine, you're fine.
don't
So,
ask it now, I'll forget it.
I understand. So our expenditures in the general fund, we've only spent in the first quarter of the year 14% of what we've budgeted. So again, savings in expenditures is what is leading to the strong cash balance at this point. The payroll stabilization fund. So we still have $157,000 in the payroll stabilization fund at the moment. At this time, I have 4 employees retiring yet this year that I'm aware of at this time. So we'll have additional expenditures out of payroll stabilization fund this year. We did have $210,000 budgeted to put back into payroll stabilization this year. But we'll see when we have the discussion on where funds need to go from the American Rescue Plan, how much we look to put back in payroll
Eric,
stabilization.
it'd be real nice if, when we do get that, that's something that we could build that fund back up with, because that's, with those retirements, that'll probably deplete that fund.
Absolutely, absolutely will. Yeah,
I'm sorry, Eric.
That will certainly be funded, yeah. No, I was just through the chair, and just building on what Michelle said. We've set up an internal committee, and we will make sure that we're working with the city commission and the finance commission. I've been reading reports from other cities almost daily now. Some of them I think are getting ahead of the regulations being issued, but seeing what people are defining as eligible. So we hope to come back with a really responsible plan that is also forward thinking, that the city commission, I know Commission President Brady's on today's call, but it's a really unique opportunity. But we know we have to make sure first and foremost that we're on sound financial footing. And then from that point forward can make decisions about what are the appropriate investments for the future of the city from there. And it will be a very collaborative process that ultimately the Finance Committee and the City Commission will be the important voices and decision makers in one, what is financially responsible from the Finance Committee, and 2, what is the vision for the goals of any excess or extra capacity by the City Commission.
I know, just that payroll stabilization fund, after going through the previous recession, or whatever they wish to call it, is near and dear to my heart.
Absolutely, and we had over $1 million in payroll stabilization last year.
Without that, would have,
Correct, with the 27th pay period last year, took a big chunk of it, but we had a lot of retirements that were unexpected last year too. So it was a blessing to have that available.
You pushed that very hard to get that through, and not everybody at the time was for it, and boy, it turned out to be a wonderful move on your part, Mr. Chairman.
well, thank you, but it was just an unfunded commitment that we had, and I know when I don't know if I had any sleepless nights, but I had heartburn that when everybody was retiring, and it had to come out of the general fund, and we didn't have any place other than general fund.
Correct. That's all I have for the March reports. Happy to answer any questions or any concerns that anyone has.
Michelle, it looks a lot better than it did a year ago.
If I could, somebody a year ago would have said we'd be in this shape. I asked them what they were drinking or whatever.
Correct. It's been a rough year, so we're happy,
Yeah, but,
to have
but
some
Eric
relief.
and Michelle, you guys have worked together, and I think have pulled together the plan. You've listened to our advice, and not that we're always right, but I think things have moved in the right direction. It's something that you can't plan for, you couldn't plan for. And thank goodness we did get some bailout money, if I can use that term.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anybody else on the committee have any comments or statements? Dan?
Looks good.
Okay, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm going to anyways. I'm going to look to my left and say, Craig, you anything to say?
I know, I'm very,
For the record, Mr. Stahl is speechless.
I do want to, I do for a quick moment want to
I
say
know,
why.
that was dumb.
Now you set me up. Why do I have a suit and tie on today? I am going to at 10 o'clock, going to the funeral of a longtime Sandusky attorney, Larry Schell, who's a personal mentor and friend of mine, and who died. Today would have been his 89th birthday. And I know, Dennis, you knew him, and Dick, I know you did too. And he may have lived in Milan, but you'll notice that his obit said Sandusky. That he spent most of his life in Sandusky, practiced in Vermillion, was part of this group up here on Wayne Street, and he will be missed.
You will see my darling wife there, because when Art Zeyer convinced her to come back to Sandusky, it was Steineman, Zeyer, Beamer, and Shell
That's correct.
in the Bliss Building.
That's correct.
And so I told my wife I was going to make that comment. She says, wait, I'm not that old. You can't make that comment. But no, Larry, somebody that she worked for until she retired, and yes.
Smart man, loved the law.
Okay.
Anyway, I wanted to say something about that, so I did.
So-
I will not be in a suit next month.
Well, Dick, anything?
Good
Jefferson?
comment, Craig, about Mr. Shell. He was a close family friend of my wife's father and the entire Smith family, and a good man and a great friend to Sandusky. I agree with you. Circling back to your concern about the payroll stabilization, you can never predict what our commission members are going to do, but I see absolutely no pushback on us injecting any dollars that we can, or a lot of dollars that we can, back into the payroll stabilization fund. I think every commissioner realizes what a wonderful instrument that's turned out to be, and how that's helped us through this time. I am thrilled at the fact that we're sitting on $4.8 million in surplus yet, and I understand that the reason for that is because we got ahead of the curve. We were proactive when we needed to be proactive, and staff bit the bullet very early, cutting our expenditures as quickly and as decisively as they can, and then those actions are paying dividends right now, and they will in the future. We're all slightly concerned, I presume, about the income tax being off the percentage that it is, but let's face it, the lodging and the restaurant and food service industry was literally decimated by this pandemic, and those people those wages are going to return, and I'm so optimistic that this is going to be obviously a better year than last year. But I think if things turn out the way that I hope they are, I intend to be directing traffic at the corner of Causeway and First Street in my best suit. I can tell you that.
I see Mr. Thomas Sewell. You should see the smile on Steve's face. I'm sure everybody over there. Now that you got a new boss, you gotta show what you can do, right?
Exactly.
Maybe a good year for that to happen. A lot of pressure on her. She can, lead us to the back to normal, hopefully. Now, I mean, we just need to be cautiously optimistic, right? I mean, I think we're still a little bit away from us recovering fully, and patience will be the virtue. But man, you guys have done a great job with managing expenses, especially, right? That's what you can control, and you guys have done great doing that. Very impressed over the last 12 months of what this commission and Eric and team have done. So thank you for that. Definitely put a lot less pressure on me. So I greatly appreciate that. And like I said, we'll do our best to get the city as much lodging tax and admission tax as we can this year.
Dan, anything further? Okay, anybody that's on the screens, Dennis, you're on there, Dick, you're on there, Steve, you just Anybody have any other comments?
No comment other than that's so special, and I think we should all be aware of the special relationship that we have with Cedar Point, that they would look at it that way, that there would be anyone that would look at it that way and say, we're looking forward to giving you as much tax as we can. It's appreciated. It's a partnership. I think the city is where it is today because of the partnership with Cedar Point that Matt reinvigorated a couple of years ago. So thank you for that.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, that relationship even goes back to Mr. Murray's first go-around on this board. When we invited a Cedar Point member to be a permanent part of your finance committee.
and for whatever reason, he still contacts me and asks me for tax advice. He's down in North Carolina running a totally different company, and
Peter Craig.
yep, Peter. Yep,
So Dennis, you'll remember, it goes back a long way when we fostered this relationship.
yes. Well, Peter sat in the meeting with Peter sat in the meeting with Dennis and myself as we were trying to decide, okay, what do we do? And I think Dennis, I am paraphrasing, but it was as we walked out, it's okay, who's going to turn the lights off first? So
Yeah, that's what the conversation was back then.
yes. Okay. Again, thanks, everybody. I'm looking at the meeting schedule, Michelle, and I'm thinking about times that you're going to be able to have things done and not done. Do we want to skip the May meeting because it's pushing you to have the income tax and everything ready because it's May 15th for the filing? How do
Make a
you
motion, we
feel?
skip the May meeting.
I'm sorry?
I'll make a motion, we skip the May meeting.
Okay.
I'll take the pressure off you, Michelle.
That works for me.
Okay.
I was hoping to have the guidance.
Second?
Second.
The only thing we may have would be the guidance on the American Rescue Plan Act, but if.
I mean, that's something that
I
you
can
could put
email
out on an email, but.
Absolutely.
I would rather get into June where we've got a little bit, hey, we know that Cedar Point is open. Steve, no pressure. And kind of how their guidance is going to be too. And I'm sure, Steve, your people over there sitting on the edge of their seats to make sure the governor doesn't screw something up.
Yes.
So you
You
said
smiled. Never mind. You answered the question.
we'll cancel the May meeting so everyone on the committee can take their friends and family to Cedar Point that day?
There you go.
Absolutely.
I don't know, Steve, can you send the passes over? No.
Oh, no.
Ouch.
We all have them already. Never
Strike
mind.
that.
Scratch that.
Strike that from the record.
Hey, this is very important and very serious, but sometimes you have to step back from it. And we're on the upward side as opposed to the downward side. And I think there is light at the end of the tunnel. Matter of fact, I know there's light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train. So with that, we've voted, I guess, to skip the May meeting. In June, then we will have a little bit more where we're at and be able to say, okay, this is what happened the first part of the year, and this is kind of where we're budgeting. And Eric, you'll be vaccinated, so you can come in. So
Looking forward to it greatly.
So if there's nothing else, we stand adjourned. And again, thanks everybody for coming.
so there's
Others,
no
thank you very much.
Public
Dennis Murray.
emails.
I'm sorry.
No, there was no public